Welcome to Open Lanes Production, where we don't have just one lane. Let's get it.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV Angela Yee, Charlemagne the God. We are the Breakfast Club. We have a special guest in the building.
Absolutely.
Miss Monique.
Hey,
Monique
my babies. Good morning. Good morning. Good
Husband's
morning.
on the phone line as well.
Brother
Sydney, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning,
Now,
y'all.
when Monique walked in, I gave her a hug. I wanted her to know it's all love.
Yes, he did, my
We're
love.
just here to have a conversation.
That's all we're doing.
That's all. Now, what's going on today, Miss Monique?
Well, baby, first I want to say to Eddie, to your producer, thanks for sharing the platform with us. And a while ago, when I came out with...
that wasn't Eddie. That was us.
Eddie Lucky here.
Okay, okay. Let me thank all three of y'all for sharing your platform with me and my husband.
Right.
But a while ago, I had to come out and I spoke in reference to Netflix. That we had to I was asking folks to stand with us as we boycott Netflix for gender bias and color bias.
Correct.
And we were fighting for equality. And then I found out that I had become Donkey of the Day.
Yes.
By Leonard. And I got to call you by your name, baby, because Leonard, okay, baby, he's getting real special, Leonard. But we're going, Leonard.
It is Leonard.
And then I was called Donkey of the Day, and it really caught me off guard. Because when I met this brother some years ago, and I always go back to it because I met him in an elevator at Turner Station. And I met a young man that was full of humility and respect. And when I got on the elevator, he actually held the door. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yes, ma'am.
And I said, "Oh, baby, thank you." And he was just like that. "Yes, ma'am. And Miss Monique, it's a pleasure to meet you." And we had a very beautiful exchange. And I said to that brother, "Tell your mama that she raised you right." And he said it was my mama and my grandmama.
Yes, ma'am.
So I felt like this was, and it still is, a beautiful young brother making his way, but full of humility and respect. Till we fast forward, and I become Donkey of the Day. So I didn't want to have it to be hearsay. I didn't want to have anybody exchange words that I may have said to him. So my husband and I wanted to come on so we could understand how I got titled Donkey of the Day.
So why'd you give a donkey today, Charlemagne?
Well, I think it was due to the whole Netflix situation. When I heard you say that, you wanted us to boycott because of racial and gender bias, but then you went on to, mention two brothers and a woman. So I said maybe she should be more specific and say black woman gender bias. But then also just from a business aspect, I wanted to know, why did you feel like, you should have gotten whatever Chris Rock got, whatever Dave Chappelle got, or whatever Amy Schumer got? Because I feel like this is a "what are you doing for me right now" type of industry.
Well, she didn't say what they got. She said she should have got more than she was offered.
And then, Charlamagne, you brought up an old Netflix special as well.
But that was later on. But my point was, this is a "what are you doing for me right now" kind of industry. We all know Monique is a legend, but we also know that those deals that Netflix are giving out are based off recent stand-up shows, recent concerts, recent arenas, recent tours like that. So I just wanted to know why you felt like you deserved that much.
Well, Daddy, would you like to start, or would you like for me?
Whichever you prefer. But, if we're going to go back to the conversation that we had with Robbie, it didn't start with the offer where the color bias and the disrespect transpired. It started from when we had our initial conversation after Monique got her reviews from the nights in which Benjamin and Caitlin, who were representatives for Netflix, came out to see Monique, in which on two different nights they saw her get a standing ovation, which subsequently gave them reviews of amazing and great show. So when we're in the midst of having the conversation prior to them giving the offer, we're in the midst, and he says, "Well, I want to make it very clear that, people speak about Dave Chappelle, Amy Schumer, and what they got. I want to just make it clear, so we can manage expectations that everybody doesn't get those type of deals." Well, when we're in the midst of that conversation, the phone disconnects. We never reconvene. He never gets us back on. And our attorney calls me up, and we speak, and we're like, "Well, that was strange. Are we going to get back on the phone or not?" Because anybody who does business knows that this is a key time in which to build the value of your client. Then we came back with an offer that they allegedly had sent sent over that our attorney and I had never received. And then on that, it was a certain time limit in which we were supposed to respond. Well, we had passed the time limit because we never received it. When our attorney had asked them to please resend the offer that they had allegedly sent, it was clear that it had never been sent in the first place. That's the second red flag. When we get on the phone to discuss the offer that they had then finally sent over, initially they didn't want to have the conversation until I expressed to them, it is very ironic that the call we had was disconnected, we never reconvened, you became evasive, you can't get on the phone, now I have to express what it's feeling like, which is gender bias, color bias, and there's also an age issue that we didn't discuss that's in there as well. So those three things are what led to it, in conjunction with the fact that the very items that he said did not translate for Monique, which were her resume, which she's done in terms of movies, it didn't translate, but he said those were the things that translated for Amy Schumer.
Now,
we just wanted to know, why did it work for Amy, but it doesn't work for her? Because what she just did, in terms of what Monique's body of work contends with or resulted in, it's all part of the resume, just like Amy Schumer's resume. So why does Amy's resume work and Monique does not? And they could not explain that.
Well, if you're just joining us, that's Sydney. That's Monique's managing husband. If you're just joining us, so you can, you know the voices.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, I want you to go ahead.
Well, I don't think Amy Schumer is funny. That's number one. But she did sell out 50 arenas around the world, including MSG, and HBO wanted her as well. So she created a bidding war based on those stats. So I assume that's the reason her number was at that place.
Well, I want to address something because you said, I assume. And then you also said in the beginning when you start talking, you said, Monique is a legend. That's what you said.
Absolutely.
Right? And then when Robbie Prohl and Netflix also says, Monique is a legend. Correct?
Absolutely.
And you believe that Chris Rock is a legend, as I do as well.
Yes.
And you would say Dave Chappelle is a legend, right?
Absolutely.
What makes me a different legend from Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock?
Well, when it comes to that Netflix special, it was the fact that Dave Chappelle did 1,500 shows prior to signing his Netflix deal. Chris Rock was on tour with the Total Blackout Tour, selling our shows arenas around the world before they did that.
And they also lured him away from HBO.
Well, I understand what y'all are coming to the table with. When I came to the table, and I said, guys, and I said it humbly, I'm the most decorated comedian alive. And I said that humbly. And then some people said, oh, Monique is crazy, till it was proven. Till everybody actually saw the numbers and said, well, I guess she's right about that. And when you say this is a what have you done for me lately, the question is, how much more do I have to do, brother? Because when you do a film called Almost Christmas, and that film has a $17 million budget, but it makes $45 million. And then my sister Amy Schumer does a film called Snatched. And that film makes $45 million, but it has a budget of $42 million. Now, what's the profit on that? I'm asking a question.
Yours made a lot more profit than Amy.
Well, it was actually a $25 million profit.
But that movie, Amy did her Netflix deal before Snatch.
No.
Right.
He said, Robbie Prohl said that was what made him also give it a deal because of the big movie that she had coming out.
Right.
And that's where we had to check.
Well, yeah, coming out. That was but she did the Netflix deal before that movie came out.
Well, we actually talked to the vice president of Netflix, Leonard.
Right.
And what happens is when you're basing off of what you're assuming, and then you give me a title of Donkey of the Day. Is your mother still alive?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're from what city in South Carolina?
Moncks Corner, South Carolina.
Moncks Corner. And if I was to call your mother or your grandmother, could they tell me stories of inequality that they had to deal with?
Absolutely.
So would your mother be a donkey?
No.
Would your grandmother be a donkey?
No.
I need you to explain how you gave me the title because you're not explaining it. You're going off of what I assume. But because you're on that microphone, and when we open up these microphones, we know just how powerful our voices can be, don't we, Angela?
Yes, we do.
And we know that what we say can become law. Correct, Leonard?
Absolutely.
So when we do that, we must then explain it to our community because we know how poisonous it can be when we put things out, but we can't back it up. We just say it.
I think that there is I think everything you're saying about racial bias is absolutely correct. Gender bias is absolutely correct. We know that the black woman is unappreciated and undervalued in a lot of different industries. But I think that when it comes to this Netflix situation, it's very specific. I think it's more of an individual thing than it is a collective problem. Like, can you honestly?
What we ask you is this: can you say, if it's an individual problem, how come that there are no individuals of color who happen to be female comedians that have had the multiple million-dollar paydays with Netflix? Because what happens with the black community, it's what have you done lately? But when you are a white person in this industry, it's you're only as good as your last project.
I thought it was drawing power. I thought it was
exactly
the amount of people that will
And
watch the special.
do you think this is specific to comedians? Because I do know they've given out multi-million-dollar deals to Ava DuVernay, Shonda Rhimes. So you think it's specific to the comedy industry?
Well, I'll let you answer it. What black female comedian got the multi-million-dollar deal? Name her.
I know.
But don't you think it's coming? I'm sure Tiffany Haddish will be presented with something if she hasn't already.
Well, but we got to speak about the sisters that's done it. Mm-hmm. See, when Wanda Sykes is number 100 on Comedy Central's top comedians ever.
Number 70.
I'm sorry, Daddy, number 70 on the top 100 ever. But they offer her 250. So what do you say to that, Lenore?
Well, I actually asked about that. I spoke to somebody at Netflix, and they offered that deal to Wanda Sykes before this guy that does these stand-up deals even got in the position. They offered this deal to her some years ago.
Does it seem strange that you always have an answer when our finish line keeps getting moved?
When our finish line keeps getting moved?
When our finish line keeps getting moved. When I say, name me one black female comedian that's got the $1 million payday, I'm waiting to hear the answer.
Right. So you think it's specific to comedians? Because I don't know on Netflix any.
But
I can't say for sure.
In history, name her.
Well, I would ask what black female comedian has sold out 50 arenas around the world.
Well, what I would tell you is there's 4 beautiful black female comedians that we just got a Legends Award. Her name is Samore. Her name is Adele. Her name is Miss Laura. Her name is Monique. And when the Queens of Comedy was on tour, see, we made history. And I don't know if you've done your homework, because we were the only female group, black, white, Latin, Asian, to sell out consecutively around this country. Mm-hmm. But you'll disregard that because you'll say, well, what did you do yesterday? So you can't take it away.
But if I'm doing business and I'm basing it off doing a deal with somebody who did this last year as opposed to doing it 15 years ago or 20 years ago, whenever it was, wouldn't it make more sense to do it with the person who did it just a couple years ago?
If you're doing business and you say, what's Monique's resume? Now, you're the businessman, and you're looking at that resume, and everything on that resume says number 1. Everything on that resume says sell out. Now, all of a sudden, is it going to change, businessman?
Yeah. If I had to sign Kobe Bryant today, I'm not going to give Kobe Bryant a $100 million contract.
Well, you're right.
But his resume is amazing.
The difference between Kobe Bryant today and Monique today is when you're 36 in the game of basketball, you done lost your step. When you are 50 years old in the game of comedy, you're seasoned. And if they had to come to Netflix, to your point, because you make a very good point, and Monique had a stumble like a 40-year-old or 38-year-old Kobe Bryant who's got a ruptured Achilles heel that you got to bounce back from, then it would make sense. But if he dropped 50 and still was dropping buckets, what would you say? Because they watched 2 standing ovations in 2 sold-out clubs.
You're absolutely right, Brother City. But let me ask you this. Why not put together a theater or arena tour and sell that out and then come back to the table? Or take a special yourself.
It doesn't have to go there. See, my whole thing is that's something else. We're talking about the money offer. And my whole thing is, as a businessman, being a legend and all that doesn't necessarily matter. It's who the people want to see. You could be a legend and people love you, but if you can't attract the people to come to the place to see you or to come to Netflix to watch it, it doesn't mean anything.
Y'all talking about selling out clubs versus selling out arenas.
Here would be the question. You know what I mean? Here would be the question. Almost Christmas. Would you say that was a hit movie?
Definitely a hit movie.
Would you say Bessie was a hit?
Yes.
Would you say
Precious
was a hit?
Absolutely.
So the question is, so Monique, you didn't do nothing in 2017 that was on TV that we could see. So that means you're irrelevant?
I don't think anything is
relevant. So what happens is, if you see these number 1s, and here's where when someone said to me, Monique, does it become disheartening when it's your folks? It's understandable. I don't take offense. It's understandable, and I explain why. When I have to sit here and not defend, but explain to people that look like me, well, when did I become irrelevant? If there was a movie out called Almost Christmas, what, in 2016? This is 2018. So now all of a sudden, oh, we don't know if people are going to show up and show out. Now, when I did a show called The Bernie and Sid Show, I'm sure you know those brothers, 2 white brothers. And when I walked in there, Leonard, I walked in with a preconceived notion that I was going to have to defend myself.
Correct.
Because one is a strong Trump supporter and the other is a Democrat. But I'm thinking I'm going to have to walk in and defend myself with these white brothers. After 5 minutes of us talking, they shut their show down. And they said, Monique, we're going to call this what this is. This is nothing but racism. And we can't sit back and allow it and watch it happen. So no, we're going to tell our listeners to boycott Netflix until they get it right. Because you are a legend. And we have to honor and respect you. Now, those are my white brothers. Then when I was in San Jose with some of my Latin brothers, they did the same thing. They shut their show down. Because they said, we got to call it for what it is. See, Monique, we've grown up watching you. We've grown up and you've made us feel better. We've grown up and our children are now watching you. Then I come to my folks. And I have to be donkey of the day, which you still haven't explained, Leonard, and you're going to have to. Because when you make those type of statements about your sister to our community, what you're saying to the community is, as black women, you're devalued. And if you stand up and you make a stand and you say, we need equality, and we have to say what's right and what's fair. And then a brother that looks like me from South Carolina says, you're the donkey of the day. You have to explain that to our community.
I've explained it. I said that I think that you're using racial and gender bias, which are actual real issues. The struggle that the black woman is going through in many industries is a real issue, but you're using it to focus on something that you're dealing with individually.
Leonard, did you just see Viola Davis come out and say pay her equally? Did you just hear that?
Absolutely.
So when you have us saying the same thing, we're saying pay us equally. You're saying, oh, Monique, this is an isolated situation. Well, then what that says is you don't know the history of this business that you're in. And you sit behind this microphone and you try to be the guru of black culture. I'm going to need you to know the history of us before you begin to label us. And once you know the history, you know I'm not saying anything unique, brother.
I just don't understand how you can justify making $13 million in 2018 for a stand-up special.
Well, here's the thing. If Netflix, when you say justify $13 million, did you get a chance to read what the offer was?
I did read some of it, yes.
You should have read all of it.
The key is we got to read all of it, because what Chris Rock said a long time ago, if you want to hide something from a black person, put it in the book. But when you want to be thorough about what you're doing, then you would read it. What's happening is this. This is not about comparing the definitive numbers as to what Amy got and what Dave and them got, because it's merit to what you just communicated. But when you ask a comedian to take $500,000 for 2 years, you can't say any jokes. They don't want you to do stand-up for 2 years. And essentially, they want you to take $500,000 and lose out on $2 million of work that you would have made on the road anyway. That right there, it doesn't make sense.
Well, did y'all make a counter offer?
Women, baby, he just asked, did we make a counter offer? And that's a very important question.
Yeah, did you make a counter offer?
I did see that they responded to the counter offer and said they regretfully won't be able to do this deal. Hopefully you guys can work together in the future.
And that's the point that we have to make to you, Leonard.
But in addition to that, my love,
go ahead, Dad.
And this is in conjunction with Roland Martin and John Mary putting out a rumor that Monique was offered $3 million, and then didn't have the decency as journalists to come back and say, we apologize for the misinformation. Because if you notice, Monique keeps producing receipts. And as crazy as this sounds, this is a bigger picture than just Netflix, because what has happened was, you've heard about Lee Daniels coming out speaking in reference to how how difficult Monique was and the whole nine. We live in a culture in which the ladies who are going up in the room saying hashtag me too, and people are saying, well, you know, if you're going up in the room at 2 o'clock in the morning, you know you're about to get screwed. So why do you go up there and do it? But what happens is they'll say to Monique, why didn't you go promote a movie for Lionsgate for free? Because you know what they'll do to you. So now you're in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Because the women who go up in the room, the reason why they go up in the room, they know they're going to get screwed when they go up in the room. They just don't know how bad they're going to get screwed if they don't go up in the room.
Now, Sydney, can I
No, wait a
ask you,
minute.
can I
So what
ask you a
happened when y'all
question
made the
about that?
counter offer, though?
Let me answer that, please, Daddy. When you say what happened when we made the counter offer, this is why, again, Leonard, you've got to be careful with your words, because you called your sister Donkey of the Day, but you didn't do your research. And you pulled that poison out into our community without fully doing your research. And now as we sit here, you have to almost backtrack your words.
I'm not
because,
backtracking
well, when
anything.
you ask a question, did you counter offer? We put all of it out there. We put the information out there. So you were so ready to do good radio that you didn't do your homework. And when you have a conversation, you know a brother named Gerald Kelly?
Absolutely.
Would you consider him your friend?
Absolutely.
See, I was on the road with Gerald Kelly 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he called me.
And he
That's why you
said,
did.
Monique, I talked to Charlamagne. And he said, man, you know I love Monique. I wasn't doing nothing but making radio.
I didn't say that.
Well,
I definitely
then
didn't tell him that.
you have
I
to
did
have
say
a
I love Monique,
conversation
though.
with
Yeah.
Gerald Kelly. Because, again, when you say, did you counter offer? See, we did. And they said there was no negotiations. You take it or leave it. But had you done your...
We didn't actually counter offer. What they said in the midst of our conversation, you giving us something to chew on, we're going to come back and reflect on it. And we said, and I said to them, trying to give them a out, are you sure? Because here's the thing, we don't want to waste your time if it's not real. However, if it's real and we can get something done, of course, we would love to do business with you.
So y'all really didn't make a counter offer?
No,
Because you know
what we're saying.
They said it was
Okay.
non-negotiable.
So- okay.
They were going to go back to reflect on what we had discussed, and when they came back, they said that we, based upon our discussion, we decided not to make a counter offer in reference to what it is that you're speaking in reference to. Hopefully we can do business in the future and so forth, because what they were trying to emphasize to us, that $500,000 was a strong enough number, and other people that they considered equal to Monique, which they did not name, they said they've taken that number. Now, just like in this situation right here that we're dealing with, if you notice, you're having a conversation with Monique. Why is it that Netflix won't have a conversation with people?
Because
Why?
they can bank on people like Charlamagne. They can bank on our brothers and sisters like Charlamagne that will say, we'll fight them for you.
I'm not fighting.
You don't have to fight.
I'm still trying to get you and Brother Sidney to justify why you think you deserve $13 million. Was there a bidding war between platforms?
Well, when you say
I want to know something. Was
when
there
you
other-
when you say justify, I'm gonna put my resume on the table. That's all I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna put it on the table. When you say justify it, I'm gonna lay it out on the table for you to look at it. So I don't have to justify it. You can see it.
Do you do the numbers and ticket sales that Chris Rock does, that Dave Chappelle does, that Amy Schumer does?
If given the opportunities, why don't you answer the question? See, if given those opportunities, you're answering the question for yourself. We're not given the same opportunities, brother. But if you do your homework, you already know that.
Why can't you and Sidney go out and book arena tours? Are y'all
Do they go out and book? Do they go out and book their tours, or do promoters book them? See, what we're going to do right now is, and what I'm not going to do with you, now you want to play a tit for tat, and what you're saying is a black woman's resume don't matter.
I'm not saying that.
You have to be saying
you keep trying to weaponize things like black woman
well,
and racism
why would they
and gender
offer
bias.
Wanda Sykes $250,000, and she's considered one of the best?
Well, that was years ago, and they said they would never do that now.
Okay.
I literally heard this like a few weeks ago.
You guys, can I interject for a second? I would love to just ask a question and circle back to something Sydney said earlier that you guys discussed, please. So you did talk about the situation with Lee Daniels,
Yes.
and you talked about people saying that, now we've read some things also because you're here in our
Yes.
presence. I would love for you to speak on this. So there are people that say that you didn't treat people well.
Yes.
And that they've had issues working with you and that you're difficult.
Yes.
So let's address some of that because Roland Martin brought it up when you guys spoke on Twitter.
Yes.
And he talked about the Ebony magazine cover shoot that you did with Chris Rock and Steve Harvey.
Yes.
And he said that it was a nightmare because of you. What happened at that shoot?
Well, what happened at that shoot was a check was thrown at one of our assistants. And you don't throw anything at anyone. And I had a problem with that. See, they won't fill you in on all that happened. So you had to let that person know that's not how you do business, and that's unacceptable. So I have no problem speaking on it. When they said I mistreated people on Almost Christmas, well, we have 20 interviews because we knew that they would say something like that. With the people that worked in the background professionals, the lighting guys, the camera guys, where they all said our experience with Monique was stellar. What happens is you hear the bullies speak out, but then the bullies run. Because when those videos did come out, did Roland Martin come back? When the videos did come out, just with the 3 little videos, you heard nothing else, did you?
Well, I think, okay, let's backtrack a little bit because with Will Packer.
Yes.
Okay, so Will Packer and Roland Martin and, you know, a lot of people have spoken out that have dealt with you personally and said these things. But I haven't really heard anybody say anything negative about Will Packer, about working with Lee Daniels, and I haven't heard them say anything negative about some of the people that they've worked with. So why is it
I can answer that, and that's a great question. You know the guy Harvey Weinstein?
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to do that for how many years?
Decades.
And why do you think that was?
Well, they were working with a lot of people who felt like their career would be in jeopardy if they spoke out.
Do you think this is a unique situation? Do you think that people are fearful to speak out when they're mistreated?
There's a difference between mistreatment and sexual assault, Monique. Like, come on, we can't put out false equivalencies about people. I understand what you're trying to say, but there's a difference between mistreatment and sexual assault. Like, it's levels to mistreatment.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yes.
Mistreatment is mistreatment.
Yeah, but I don't like you can't paint Will in the same just with the same brush as Harvey Weinstein.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry, Daddy.
Odds here, it's just based upon the information that you have, you feel comfortable with it because this is the world we live in. If you keep hearing it, it seems as if it's true. Ask David Talbert, who was the director of Almost Christmas, if Monique had to stop because Will Packer was given directions over the director, and he's the producer, and Monique said, stop for a moment, please. What we're not going to do is disrespect this black director, because if he was a white director, you as the producer would not give direction over him. And had a conversation with Will, and to his credit at that moment, he seemed to have got it and was embarrassed by what it was that he had done. Now, to show you how fairly that Monique plays, there was a gentleman who happened to be Caucasian on the set that was talking to Monique about the whole production and was referring to David Talbert and Will Packer as boys. Well, she took exception to that, had a conversation with the gentleman and said, that's not what we talk about in 2016. We're not going to talk like that. And the gentleman, to his credit, apologized, but she brought everyone in, Will and Dave, to have that discussion. Now, the gentleman apologized profusely. Monique accepted it. Will Packer let him go. And the reason she had a difficulty with one of the individuals who were the, what was she, AP, or first AP or something like that? She had walked into Monique's trailer while she was undressed without knocking. And I don't know if you know, but there was a letter that Steve Harvey had written a while ago in reference to how people just walk into his room. What happens is she's the type of person that doesn't allow people to get disrespected. And she's not going to have an issue with the people that are the hourly wage folks. It's typically the people who are the powerful ones. She's not having no beef with nobody. She appreciates the whole process. Ask Lee Daniels. You can't accuse somebody of being difficult who says to Lee Daniels, how are they going to let this woman, Gabrielle Sidibe, come out to the film festival in Sundance, but they don't have anybody to help her out with makeup, and she gives them her people. She tells Lee, fly, how you going to fly her out to Cannes and coach, guys? She's fighting for people's rights. There were people that were getting their fingers pointed in their face that happened to be black women by white men on the set of Precious, and she said, I can't allow that to happen, guys. So what happens is you are forgetting that this is a country that had slavery for hundreds of years, and when do we start realizing that we are so conditioned to normalize bad treatment when white men are able to say, hey guys, she's right? How does the black community not see it?
Listen, we know all of these issues. I agree with you on all of that. I want to know about this, though. Have you received other offers from other streaming services? Or other places, period?
Let me say this.
Because doesn't that help with negotiations when you can
because
create
of that
a
black
war?
ball being put over my head, because of that label being put over my head, and how difficult and demanding I am, and how difficult my husband is, the offers that come in from Netflix, they can come in low like that because they know you've been blackballed. You know what the word is about you. So we assume that you're suffering, and we can offer you whatever we want to offer you. So the offers have come in even lower than that.
You had a Netflix special beforehand, though, right?
Well, I didn't have a Netflix special. What happened was...
They took the one and put it on there.
Exactly. I didn't make any deal with Netflix. So those shows just happened to be on there, and they've been on there for a long time. So someone would say, if this woman's not bringing in any views, why would we hold on to the content? They've been on there for a minute. So as
Are they getting the views?
Well, I'm assuming so. We don't get a report on that. But as I sit here again, and I sit between my sister, who I know you deal with inequality, Angela. I know it. You in the same business I'm in. But you'll look at me and you'll say, well, I need you to explain to me. They said you was a problem here and a problem there. We all know when you don't allow bullies to take place and when you don't allow yourself to get bullied, don't you get labeled?
Yes. But can I just, for full disclosure,
please,
there are definitely people that I know that have worked with you on the Ebony shoot.
Yes.
And I've heard things, well, they've told me personally, people that were in the room.
Say their names. And if not, like I told Lenard before, keep it on the playground.
Well, okay, so I saw on Alfred Edmond Jr., who's the editor-in-chief of Black Enterprise magazine.
Yes.
I saw that Amy Dubois Barnett, who was the editor-in-chief of Ebony at the time of that shoot, who was very excited to have you on the shoot, she left a comment because he posted something about you and the numbers and about your worth and how you are the most decorated comedian and black woman comedian. And she commented it was a nightmare working with her, and I would never want to go through something like that again. I saw that comment is still on his page now.
I would love to sit down and talk with that sister face to face so she can tell me about the nightmare, because what they won't do is they won't fill it in. See, they won't fill in we were being arrogant, and we wanted to treat that woman as if we were doing her a favor by putting her on the cover. As my husband told me years ago, we don't disrespect anyone, but we over-respect no one. And I want you to look at me. I'm a big, fat black woman.
You're not fat. Stop it.
Real talk. What big, fat black woman has to stands up and says, this is not fair? Because what the feeling is with some of our sisters and brothers, Monique, you should be grateful you just got invited to the party because of the way you look. So for anyone that says they ever had a problem with me, bring them to the table. Bring them to the table and let's have a conversation. But what you'll find is, we'll speak about this woman when she can't see us. We'll make comments. But we're the type of people that say, let's have a conversation. And when you find out that they're wrong, will you then speak up loudly for me as you speak up for them?
I absolutely would. But Sister Monique and Brother Signon, ask you a question.
I have no problem with that.
Forget all the attitudes and all that, because I never brought that into the picture, or how people feel about you or whatever. Let's just talk numbers. If you put your numbers up against the Amy Schumers, the Chris Rocks, the Dave Chappelle's, and I'm talking about selling out arenas all over the world, how can you justify getting a huge payday like that?
Again,
y'all aren't doing that type of stuff. Y'all aren't selling out arenas. Y'all not. It's simple to me.
When you say you're not selling out arenas, if they approached us and say you're not selling out arenas, and they were using your metrics that you just said, then we would say the number, it definitively doesn't have to be 20 if that's your metrics. But when you're saying that you're going to offer her 126 of what Amy Schumer got, and you're referring to Monique as a legend, and you're seeing her performance, and you see the people standing up for her at the end of the show, have you read the reviews to the Netflix special for Amy Schumer?
I don't think Amy's funny. You don't got it. Amy got me blocked on Twitter because I don't think she's funny. You don't got to sell me on that.
This is the part, Daddy, and we got to wrap up the show.
But Amy did sell out 50 arenas around the world, including MSG a few times. She had an HBO special that did great, and this was all in 2017.
Here's what Brother Leonard is saying. Let your numbers fall. Let this year another show comes and they become #1 and not the Breakfast Club. And then let a host come in here that's been doing it for maybe 5 years less than you. And then they get paid 26 times more than you. Then you come back and have a conversation with us. Because, right, that's all. Because what happens is when you sit here and you say, make it make sense, well, we don't have to. Because again,
no, you do have to make it make sense, especially if you're calling on people to boycott Netflix.
We've made it make sense
bias.
Because we're saying, here's the resumes, guys. Here it is right here.
In conjunction with that, the only thing we're saying is, if hypothetically speaking, it wasn't 13 million, Charlamagne, what we're saying is, how come there's not? They're saying to the community that it's not one black woman that is a veteran comedian out there today that is worth a 7-figure number.
But once again, Brother Sidney, I will ask.
The same agency as the same agent as Dave Chappelle, Amy Schumer, and Chris Rock.
And I will ask you, Brother Sidney, I will say to you, what beautiful black woman is doing the things that they're doing? Like Dave Chappelle did 1,500. Dave Chappelle did 1,500 shows before he did his Netflix
Daddy,
deal
but you know what? Here's the thing.
He was selling out Radio City.
He's making a great point. This is what I'm saying to you, though, Charlamagne. In the league that we're in, I mean, in the NBA, how many LeBron Jameses are there?
One.
Right. How many Steph Currys are there?
One. And they all get paid accordingly.
Right. So what happens is, how many players are in the league that are still getting multiple million-dollar deals, but not LeBron money?
So what would have been a respectable number for Miss Monique? That's what I want to know.
Here's the thing, though, brother.
I'm not serious.
You gotta answer it.
Let me give you a respectable number for Monique.
Shame on him.
Something that would supersede what she would have made in 2 years, and at the very least, what she would have made 2 years, to be able to take the 2 years off that they're contractually asking her to do, to not be able to tell jokes. You would not take a deal because they're going to give you a lump sum of cash that's going to castrate you out of 3/4 of your income. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So if the deal didn't include the 2 years and didn't have that you couldn't tell jokes.
If I would have taken a deal for $500,000, Angela, what position would that have put the babies that's coming after me?
No, the deal is foul. The deal is absolutely positively foul. Nobody says the deal is right, but, you know, and Sidney, you're a businessman, Monique, you're a businesswoman, right? The deal is foul. I mean, let's be clear.
And that's why you counter offer.
Or you go somewhere else.
They're hearing and based on what they know Monique's reputation as far as what people are rumored to say. Right?
I don't even know if that matters.
Yeah, it does matter. They know
it definitely
that other networks are not necessarily giving her the money and giving her less. They know what it is. So why would I give, as a business person, her an obscene number when I know she can't get it anywhere else? It's foul, but it's business.
But you know what? And it's that kind of bullying business.
You're right.
So I'm sorry, Daddy. If you're saying you're right. See, that's what we're trying to get to. If you're saying, Monique, it is foul, and you are right. So if we know it's right and we know it's foul, then what do? We do
it on our own.
That's just like talking to Steve Harvey. And Brother Steve Harvey says, Mo, I know you're right. And I know you're not lying. But could you have done it another way?
No,
well, what's the suggestion? What's the other way?
I don't want you to do it any other way.
We do do it on our own, but we still got to speak up. See, we still have to speak up. Like you say, Angela, well, just go somewhere else. Do you know how long we've been going somewhere else?
But here's the thing, and we have to. We have to. And that's not an issue. But what we're saying is this. just so people are aware, this is what they're doing over here, and we want it to be known because, as Wanda Sykes so kindly said, she essentially suffered in silence. She was hurt by, but she went somewhere else. And the offer that they gave her was less than half. And it doesn't matter about that was way before they got what they got because she was even hotter then. She came up under the wing of Chris Rock. Her audience and Chris Rock are very, very similar. She's very unique in the industry in that she caters to a white audience. Now, over time, Monique has a multitude of people in her crowd. However, we know the people that focus are people of color in terms of her crowd from a standpoint of the comedy world. When you have a Gary Owens who comes out and says, well, I go to Netflix every year, and they tell me no flat out because they can't get a white boy who has a black audience. What he subliminally just communicated is that they don't have respect for my audience, so they don't have respect for me. That's why they don't give me a deal. Do you not understand that?
I think the problem started with you coming out comparing yourself to Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle,
and why should
and
well, here's the
I
thing.
think because there's no way that you can justify getting that amount of money that they got. Now, should you have gotten more than 500,000? Yes, and I've said that from day one.
Well, here's what I'll say, brother.
Well, no, that's not what y'all was saying. What y'all was saying was y'all should have got the same amount that Chris Rock, Chappelle, and Amy Schumer got.
Let me answer that. Let me answer that, Daddy. What I said was, if I'm considered a legend, like my brothers, then why wouldn't I get what legends get? That is exactly what I said.
Because their resume recently is better. You can just prove it on paper.
We're going to, listen, Leonard, we're going to let you hold on to that.
Monique has to go too.
But what I will say to you is, and to all the black women and women of color that is listening, when you hear this brother's voice come over the air, and I'm unapologetic about what I'm getting ready to say, he does not have a value on black women and women of color.
How can you say why do you say that? But you said 10 years ago, I hugged you, I held the door for you.
I'm going to tell you why.
You think that's contradictory?
I'm going to tell you why I said it. Because what happens is, when you leave a place called Moncks Corner, South Carolina, and you come to a big city named New York, and then you change your name to Charlamagne the God.
Charlemagne in Moncks Corner, Miss Monique.
Well, when you were there, you become Charlemagne the God. Now, I don't know if you took the same principles that your mama and your grandmama gave you in Moncks Corner and you brought it to Manhattan, New York. Because the brother I did meet on that elevator, I met a brother that was full of principle. And I met a brother who would not call a sister a donkey of a day unless he knew all the information and he could back up his statements. But as we sit here and we did this interview, you begin to ask questions that you should have asked before you make the statement. So what I have is
questions, but y'all really don't have any answers.
What
y'all
I
still have
is,
not justified why you feel like you should have gotten that money. And
what
y'all
I have
backtracked and
is,
said you don't think she should have got that.
We're not backtracking.
Brother Sidney said it.
We're not backtracking. And here's the thing, Daddy,
neither one of y'all
there
are
will
on the
be
same
some
page.
brothers and sisters that get it the way that they get it, and we get it the way that we get it, and it's not an argument. I respect your decision. I respect your opinion because you're entitled to it. However, as we are entitled to ours. So what I am saying, and I know this show is going to air tomorrow, and I hope that you're courageous enough to air it in full.
Absolutely.
Because oftentimes people will chop it up.
Not at all.
But when I say that the devalue you place on black women, and you say, how can I say that? Because out of your mouth you're saying there is no black female comedian that is worth that money.
No,
there's
I
not
did
one
not
of
say
us
that.
out
I said
there.
there hasn't been. I think
Well,
Tiffany Haddish
when you say there
on.
hasn't been, I'll go down. If I go down the list of black female comedians and the work that those sisters have put in through the years that opened up doors so that people like you could sit where you sit. Her name is Marsha Warfield. Her name is Thea Vidal. Her name is Moms Mabley, which she's no longer with us. The list goes on and on and on, which we've never gotten our just due.
Miss Monique, like it's the truth. Like,
all right, Monique,
like you keep moving.
Monique,
I love New York. I love y'all, my babies. And
appreciate
Indy,
it.
I thank you for giving us the platform. Eddie, Leonard, I appreciate you, brother.
Sydney, thank you.
And Monique, wrapping it up, what are you going to do moving forward as far as with this special?
We're going to keep on pushing. See, the special's going to happen, baby.
Right. So
that's going to happen.
Okay.
And we're going to let y'all see it. But what we're going to do with this situation right now called the fight for inequality, we're going to keep standing. And we're going to hope that sisters like you would stand with us to say, when it's inequality, we must speak up and we must speak loudly because your daughters are coming and your grandbabies are coming.
I'd like to end on this. what y'all may want to do is have a legend come on there that we all saw on the Dave Chappelle show by the name of Paul Mooney. And it's kind of the equivalent of when they were saying they had asked Isaiah Thomas who was the best point guard in the league. And he said it was Kyrie Irving.